This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we are done with continuous delivery pipeline also, which includes our database DevOps as well. Okay, likewise, see, we done it for SQL Server, right? Likewise, there are many other databases as well, but only matured organizations generally follow the database DevOps. And there are many other tools as well apart what I mentioned, Redgate. So that I listed in my slides, right? You can go on basically explore those things because now you know the concepts. Now you know how to do it in one tool. The other tool will be easier because you can simply compare and try to do this. Okay. With that, let's get into PowerShell. Okay. This is also one of the important activity in DevOps engineer role. Okay, apart from what we are doing, deployments or configuration of release pipelines or build pipelines and management requirements management, etc. Sometimes we may also need to use PowerShell. I mean scripting. Okay, sometimes most of the cases, you have the tasks available to do your work from your build and release pipelines. But sometimes you may need to go, you may need to use a customized feature. That's where you can use PowerShell as well. Okay, mostly it will be simple commands that people use to, use that scripting in your pipelines or directly working on some of the areas. Okay, we'll see what are those scenarios, and you should be able to create your own PowerShell script without any hassle moving forward. Okay, let's see what is this first of all. So you don't need to install PowerShell on the latest operating systems because Windows 7 SP1 onwards, it is coming as a built-in software utility on our operating system. That's the reason when I created Windows Server 2016 as well, we have the PowerShell ready there. I just went and used it. So it should be there on your laptop as well. Okay. It is simple utilities, right? These are setup commands that you can use it. Okay, basically it is built on .NET. That's the reason initially it was available only on Windows operating system. But with the introduction of, with the introduction of .NET Core, so they also developed PowerShell on top of .NET Core. Since .NET Core works on both Mac and Linux and Windows, now the PowerShell will also work on all the operating systems. Okay. The main purpose of PowerShell is to manage your operating system resources and any processes. Basically, you kill the processes, you create the processes, whatnot. So whatever you do manually, that can be achieved by using PowerShell. If I have to broadly categorize what a PowerShell can do, so it can manage your file systems, means you can create, delete, or update folders or files, or manage permissions, and then you can install the certificates or delete the certificates, and then you can do the IAS administration. Nothing but you have some housekeeping activities on IAS. Okay, managing the app pools, etc. But I tell you, you can do pretty much IAS administration straight from the tasks that are available in your release pipeline category, deployment category. You don't need to do PowerShell. That's what I suggest. You use PowerShell on anything if you don't have any mechanism out of the box in your DevOps features. Okay. And PowerShell, you can very well manage the entire Azure cloud environment from your command line interface, means from your IDE or command line interface. These are the categories broadly at high level. So this is one important thing that you need to understand. In PowerShell, you don't call it as a commands, you call it as a commandlet. Okay, CMDlets basically. So if you are saying commands, that means you probably not using PowerShell since a long time. So try to start using, word commandlet. CMDlet is nothing but commandlet. This is designed very well, PowerShell. Basically, it's a huge one, right? So because it can manage all of your operating system resources and the cloud as well. So there is a hell lot of modules available. So you don't need to have all the modules on your laptop because it occupies space, and on server also it occupies space, and as well as performance impact as well. So that's the reason whatever you want to work on, you can simply install those modules. I will show you how to install those. So install those modules and start working on them basically. So you can integrate this PowerShell. You can directly run your commands from your command line interface, or you can integrate this PowerShell with your Azure pipelines as well. Nothing but your release pipelines or build pipelines. Okay. And you can basically from your laptop itself, or from one of the servers itself, you can execute these commands on a remote server as well. So that's called PowerShell remote. Okay. So these are the things what we talked about. PowerShell remoting. That means you can write from your laptop. You can execute these PowerShell scripts on a target machine itself. Okay, it's just like doing remote desktop. Without logging into the remote desktop, you can simply execute the commands. So you virtually connect to the server, and then the moment you execute the command here, it will be executed physically on the other server. Transactions is nothing but executing the commandlets. Also, if you have a script, you can basically schedule it as a job. I mean, your regular job, right? It can be a part of, if it is Linux, it can be a part of cron scheduler, or if it is a Windows, it can be part of your Windows scheduler as well. So as a background job. So we already seen we can manage the file systems as well. That means if you want to copy files from one folder to another folder, or one system to another system, you can very well use over the network. Basically, PowerShell can be used. So let's get with that's very much about PowerShell. Okay. It's easy to learn as well, as long as you know the basics. Okay, that's the reason I start with basics, and we'll show some scripts, and then we'll integrate those scripts with our release pipeline. That's where you understand how you can develop, how it can be useful, how you can integrate as part of your DevOps pipeline. And there are a hell number of documentation available on MSDN as well. You can go and basically uh, read them, but you don't need to read it. What I suggest is take some use case. Let us say you are doing some manual activity. You want to do it using PowerShell. Just try to use PowerShell to avoid that manual act. That's why you learn it. Don't go and read the documentation. Okay, that will not be useful mostly. So let's see some examples. Okay, the reason I am giving these examples to make comfortable with PowerShell. So generally the commandlets looks like this. So you have this two words, word one, and then hyphen, and then word two, and then you can apply search mechanism as well. Let us say the way you search in text box using in partial words, right? You can apply that kind of search mechanism on top of your commands as well. Let us say on my laptop or on server, there will be a number of services running, right? If we say get service, it will give all the services. If I say get service SQL star, then I'll get all the services that starts with SQL. The name starts with SQL. That's how it works. Okay. Let's quickly, execute one or two commands and move on to the other topics. Okay. So PowerShell, you can uh, simply go and identify here, or you can just search for it. As I told you, it is already available as a built-in option. So when you look for PowerShell, you will get two options. One is a PowerShell ISC, and another one is a simple PowerShell. Windows PowerShell ISC. First, I'll start with Windows PowerShell. Okay. Of course, everything is Windows. So this is what we generally see, right? Uh, Whenever you say PowerShell, executing the PowerShell, or someone say PowerShell. This is a window you see. So let's try to see some commands. Okay. So the beauty of this one is the moment you type something, okay, you don't know the complete word. You simply, I mean, it has intelligence as well. Simply click on tab. It will give the complete command. You just need to press tab. So to execute that one, it might be getting all the commands that are available in my in PowerShell. Okay, you see a hell lot. Let me stop it. So Control C. You can see Control C. It will move on. Okay. See, you have a hell lot of commands here. It is showing everything is two words. You see, add hyphen some command, and then if I move on. Sorry, I just need to move on. Move up. You see, update hyphen, test hyphen, and likewise, everything is two words, and then start, you can see start hyphen, set hyphen, remove hyphen. Okay, so you have thousands and thousands of commands. Okay, and all the Azure related, stuff, cloud related, Azure cloud related commands will start with, the module starts with AZ or Azure. Okay, mostly here you can see AZ. Okay. Okay, but I will tell you some techniques how to easily understand these things. So let me clear it. Okay, that's how the command looks like, and that's how you execute. And what are the ticks that you need to know to search for the commands or to identify the commands to do your work? So as I told you, it is always a combination of two words which contains hyphen. The first word will always be verb, and the second word will be a noun. So the all the commands will look like this. Okay, get, start. So let us say you want to start some process or you want to get some file. So this is our general English, right? And our command let's also design like that. So you want to start something, you always type start and then type hyphen. And probably if you want to start some VM, then probably you say az v. Then you probably get all the commands that starts with azv, and you can start them basically. So everything will look like that. Start is executing something, out is output something. If you want to stop, you can stop. You can start using stop word icon and the commands set, new, update. So this is how your commands looks like this. And I just given a some of them: user, remove, set, etc. Right? Those things will look like this. This is the easiest way to uh, remember the commands basically. Commandlets, not the commands. Delete something. Okay. Uh, so what's the easiest way to learn any scripting, not only PowerShell, right? See, whether it is a programming language or scripting language, it's important to know the syntax. Once you know the syntax, it's all about uh, uh, knowing about the packages or modules or the commands that you need to use for a specific task. That anyways you go and Google it or go to the documentation and get those relevant packages or commands. So that's the reason we need to learn the basics. So we will see how you declare variables, how the loops syntax, how the condition syntax. Conditions are nothing but a if else switch, etc. Loops are nothing but a for loop, while loop, and variable declarations. And you have a since you all are into IT, I don't need to talk about variables. We have the system variables and as well as the user-defined variables. User-defined variables are what we define in our scripting. System-defined variables are from the system. You can simply use that to get some information from those variables. Okay, and we'll create the PowerShell script as well. The extension is PS1. So if you see any script, I mean xyz.ps1, that means that is a PowerShell. So we see all these things in action. quickly so that you can write your own script. Okay, it is also have a number of data types, but PowerShell is a dynamic. If you create a variable and if you give decimal, it will become a decimal variable. If you give a integer, it will become an integer variable. So you don't need to much worry about data types here, though it has that sub. Okay, so let us say we seen the PowerShell, right? So we are executing this from PowerShell command prompt. I would say CLI. So say get service here. I'm just searching for all the services which starts with SQL. I see these commands. See, for executing one set of commands or commands one by one, your command prompt is okay. But your script generally contains more than one line, right? You will have a comments, you will have a loops, you will have variables, you will have blah blah blah. How you see in your programming language, or what you see in your stored procedures, or it can be anything. It is a more than one line, right? So this is not the place to write a script, and it okay. So for that reason, we have another IDE to work on this scripting work, the way you write C# coding or database scripting, right? So that is called Windows PowerShell ISC integrated. So you have a Windows integrated scripting environment uh, to write the PowerShell. So you can write your script, you can debug, you can test. So however you are using your Visual Studio or Eclipse or any other IDE, right? Or SQL Server Management Studio for the database, or Toad for the Oracle. So you can do the similar activities using Windows PowerShell ISC. It is purely for the PowerShell. Okay. So let's go to the PowerShell ISC as well. So search for PowerShell, and then you can see we just open Windows PowerShell, right? Now you go and open Windows PowerShell ISC. I always like to run any scripting IDs with administrator privileges. So I just want a quick view. So the bottom one, what you see is your PowerShell window, which is again integrated in your PowerShell ISC. So here you can write your script. Okay, when you are executing in the bottom, it will show it as a console basically, all what is happening when you are executing this. And you can debug. If you are having 10 lines of code or 20 lines of code, you can put the debug points and inspect the data as well, the way you are seeing in Visual Studio Eclipse or any other IDEs. Okay, and you can save it and whatnot, whatever you do it with other. Okay, and you can install the modules, and it is having one beautiful command palette on the right hand side. You will see. Let me go and show command add-on. It should pop up one more window. You see here, right? In my so here you can see commands. All the commands will come here. Sometimes you may not remember, right? You don't even know, but you can go by analogy what I'm saying. If you want to start something, start a virtual machine IAS, you can go and type start icon, and then it will give you all the command the way Google search works. Okay, so let me see why it is not coming here. Yeah, so you can go and start commands add-on, so you can see the same thing here. So let us say I want to start some virtual machine. Start, I say I'm getting many things. See, I specified start IIS site website basically. So it will also give you a lot of details, show details. Sometimes if you don't know how to use this command, it will give you all that interface here in a GUI where you can go and type your input. So it will show you, uh, the complete command syntax as well. So for this IAS site, I just need to give some website name. So let us say online. Okay, and I can run straight away from here as well. At the top, I mean bottom right corner, you see, just say run. See, on the left hand side, now you see the command is executing. So if you don't know the command syntax, you see this is the easiest way to know. Of course, the website doesn't exist. The command syntax is see start hyphen IAS site. The command let is here, and then I have to give a switch called a hyphen name, and then the actual variable. I mean the website name. This is how you can easily understand the syntax. Okay, come here and take whatever the command you want, and just give some blah 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 information here. Run it, then you will see the syntax. So this is one of the easiest ways to remember to learn syntax, command syntax. Okay. Of course, when you go to your what is a PowerShell, right? If you say command help, it will also give you, but it is all in text, right? It is not uh, the command which can be used straight away. You can't simply copy paste it. But this one, you can simply copy paste in your script. Okay. So this is very useful, PowerShell IS. We'll keep on using it. Don't worry. I'm just giving a overview. Okay. So that's a PowerShell ISC. And then there are, so if you want to work on file systems, right, it's all about CRUD operations, right? You create folders, create files, delete, remove, delete. You sometimes see, if the file exists or if the folder exists, and then you append the content, you write the content, you do so many things on the file system. So whatever you do manually, all those things are available here. So I basically shared these commands with you, but just for your reference, I just want to execute one or two commands so that you feel comfortable. So I can't run all these commands, right? It's a waste of time as well. You can practice. So let us say you want to create a folder or file. Let's go and do it. Basically, I give an entire thing here. It's like a new item, and then where you want to keep that and what is that type. So you are creating a new item, but is it a directory type or a file type? So that's how it goes. Okay. So if I go and execute, I generally like to execute it from PowerShell ISC. Let me close this regular Windows PowerShell CLI because we know the advanced one now. So let us say new item. Okay. And then so you have to give the path. So hyphen path. So it's all IntelliSense, and then double quotes, give the path. I simply say D colon. Okay. It will give you the existing stuff as well, but I simply say August 13th. That's all I want to give. And what is this item? It is of type. It is of type. Is this a switch? Item type only, right? But it is not giving me the switch. Should I give exactly this? It should work double quotes also. Okay, single quote it is taking. Okay. Item type as a directory. Okay. Now if you go and execute it, okay. So you see August 13 is created. This is the time and this is the name, right? So this is how you can go and create directories. And sometimes in your scripts, right, what happens? If I go, let me go and see it. Yeah, you can see the August 13th folder, right? sometimes in your scripts, you simply go and you simply don't go and create the scripts. I mean, folders or files, right? Probably you will check if the folder exists, don't create it. If the folder doesn't exist, create. That's how you go, right? For that regions, you also have commands like if the folder exists. You can see this test path. There is one more command here. Okay, if I take this, so basically what I do, August. Okay, I can comment these lines as well. For the commenting, you can use a hash. Okay. The moment you say hash, this will not be executed. Okay. So let's execute a test path August 13. Let me clear it so that you will see clearly. See, test path August 13th, it given me true or true. That means I can go and create a new directory. Otherwise, you will unnecessarily get into errors, right? But this will all you will write such kind of functions once you learn that loops, conditions, etc. But I'm just saying these are all available for you. Okay, this is how you can comment. Okay, and similarly, if you want to create a file, so it's just like a new item again path. So I want to create a file name, test file here. Okay, and I simply make this directory to file. Okay. Okay, now the file is created and it contains 0 content. So that is an our, yeah. I didn't give any extension. That's the reason it is created a file type. You have to give the extension as well if you have to create a text file. And now you see, I struggled. I struggled little bit to see the syntax. Right? That's the reason I went back to my PPT and copy pasted here. So that's the reason you can use these things. Let us say here, new item. So I have the new item. Simply click this and show details. I'm just showing easiest way to take the complete command with syntax etc. So that you can use that as it is in your scripting work. So where I want to create this folder, same thing, right? Path. So each label is a switch here. You see path and then item type, value, etc. These are your switches here. Okay, let's see. I'll say D, say August 12th, I say. Okay. You don't need to use this credentials, etc. because I'm not setting anything. Now simply say item type here. Let us say what is this? Folder directory. So if it, so even if you don't know also, that is okay because it will give you error. Okay, let's run this. Now you see when I run this, you got this entire syntax available. You can simply go and use in your scripts. Okay, let us say you don't know what is this also directory or something. Let's see what happens. Let us say folder, what it will tell me. Take this. So I got an error. So what it is saying, this is not a known type of system. Only file directory as see. It is giving me that stuff as well. It is saying, hey, use only file or directory for the item type. Don't use any other word. So this is how even though you don't know what to be typed here to understand the syntax, you can simply give something, so it will give you all that help that is required. After that, you can simply go and copy and paste in your scripts. One of the easiest way to write the script. Guys, does it make sense for you? Is that useful? Can you acknowledge me? Is that useful? So that I'll move on. Okay. So in the PowerShell ISC itself, you have the commands and you can see the modules as well. I'm just highlighting here. Sorry, it's not highlighting. I'm just moving my cursor here. See, this is a command name, and it is saying, hey, this command is part of this Microsoft PowerShell.management. This is in this module. That's what it is saying. Similarly, if you are having some Azure, it will be part of some module. So why I'm saying this module, basically, whenever you take some command from internet and you try to execute, it will say, hey, command doesn't exist. That means you don't have the relevant module here. You just need to identify and install the module. I will show how to install the modules. Let us say, first let's go and see some Azure related. I'll say get Azure related. Will start with AZ, and I say anything AZ-AKS. Okay, you see the module here is AZ.AKS, and it is clearly saying not imported. That means if I go and let me comment these lines. If I go and say get AZ-AKS, run this, it's not imported, right? It should give me an error. So see, it's not executing. Basically, it is taking some time. See, nothing has come here. Okay, if I have it is imported, basically it will give me at least some output. Okay, nothing is there. You can clearly see here, not imported. So we will import it later. Okay, I'm just showing this easiest ways. So similarly, see, you can work on all these folders, go and execute these things. I'll just share it with you. Okay, you can delete the files, etc. So you have the date related stuff as well. You can add, subtract, or set the dates as well. The way you are doing it in your SQL Server or Oracle or in your Java.NET, right? You have the similar things as well. Let us say, let me give a simple things so that let us say get date, get tab. You can see the date that has come. Clear, let's clear it. Now you see 13th August. You can use this, you can set the dates as well. So use all these things in your day-to-day scripting, right? Let us say set date space. How do you set these dates? So I don't remember the syntax, so I don't like to remember as well. So you have a hell lot of things, right? You can take this. Another option for you is come here and search for this. Okay, set date. You will get this, and then you can give some date here. Okay, and then execute this, then you will get the syntax here. Okay, what you want to set the date, and the flag is hyphen date. That's what you see the label here. Okay, and what I am going to do, I'm going to add I am going to subtract it. That's the reason I given -1. So to the current date, add -1 days. That's what it is saying. Okay, if you do this, so subtraction will go to the 12th August, right? That's why you see my calendar also set to 12th August. So because it is executed on my laptop. Okay, so that's how you work on these days. Now it went back to 14th because I said add days of -1. To get it back, I simply say -1 again. 13th August. Okay, so that's how you work with dates. And you can read the data from your text files, and you can append the data to the text files. Okay, that's all there. Set content, get content. If you want to delete the data from the text files, you can clear the content. Okay, all those things are there. Okay, now so now how to write scripts using IDE, and what are the easiest ways to remember commands or get the syntax or understand the syntax. Okay, and you know what is PowerShell, CLI, all that stuff. Now let's get into programming area. So in scripting, in any scripting, be it Python, be it Perl, PowerShell, anything, right? It is not like regular programming languages, right? The minimal things that you need to understand is your variables, conditions, and loops. That's how you create your logic. So let's go and learn those things. Okay. In PowerShell, your variables will start with a dollar. Okay. Any word that starts with dollar will become a variable. Okay. So of course it will be a alphanumeric. Okay. And you can have the underscore as well in the variables. Okay. Of course, if you don't remember, if you don't know
Purna?
how to declare it, yeah. Yes.
Purna,
Yeah. Please. I
are you
can
able to
hear,
hear me?
Suresh. Yes, I can. Yes, Suresh, I can hear you.
Just a moment.
Tell me, Suresh. You are on mute. Okay. So the variable should be starting with your dollar. So that's how you do. Let us say I want to uh, use some, dollar, some variable name. Let us say date manipulation. I'm creating some variable. Okay. I'll say 1. Okay. This is my variable. That means my variable contains now integer 1. So I can use this in this command as well. Let us say set date. Let me cut it and put it here, and you can use that variable instead of this -1. You say dollar. You have the IntelliSense, so it will give you the dates here, variables. You said dollar manipulation. Let's go and execute this. See, now you see my date of my laptop has been increased by 14th August. Okay. So because in this variable, I kept integer 1, and I use that variable in my add days function. And the command that is set date. So that's how you can utilize the variables. Okay. Create a variable and use it wherever you want in your script. Okay. I'm going step by step, guys. And there are many special variables, or I would say system variables, that are available with your PowerShell environment. So that means, let us say, uh, this will give a predefined output actually. Okay, let us say I want to see, I so far I executed so many commands here, and there were some errors also that came. Now, if I want to get, as part of my script, I'm writing a script actually. So you might have some 10-15 scripts. Okay, and finally somewhere the script given error. So if you want to catch that error, how do you catch that error? So you want to catch that error and you want to log it to some file. How do you catch it? So for such kind of scenarios, what you can do, you can use a system variable. So if it is a .NET, or if it is a .NET or Java, uh, you can use error modules, exception modules. They will catch it there. If it is a SQL Server, I guess there is also mechanism to catch the error. So similarly, here you can catch the errors using system variable. There is a variable called dollar error. I think this is a dollar error. Yeah, simple dollar error. You can see here. Okay. Let me say dollar error. If I execute this one, you see. So this is an exception. During my scripts execution, I would say script execution, I got one error. Some time ago. So it actually hold that this variable basically hold all the errors that occurs as part of your script execution in a session. So that so at the end of a script, right, at the final lines, you basically catch this. I mean, you can use this error, $error, to write to some log file or to write to some database, whatever you want. That way, people can use it as a audit logs or exception logs for the debugging, troubleshooting purpose. So these system variables will help you in that way. Okay. And similarly, so I will use some of these things during some commands execution and script execution. And let's see what is $home. So basically, you want to set some, environment variables. You want to get the path where your commandlets are executing. You can simply use $home. So you will get these scenarios. Basically, my PowerShell is running from this path c:\users purnachandra.care. Okay. So similarly, you have many things. Some of these are related to your loops. Okay. You can go and read it. I will share these things with you as well, because you need to run one by one and understand. So there are many here. Okay. So now you know how to create a variables and how to use them in the commands that you write in your PowerShell. Now, the next one, in any logic, you need to know the arithmetic, operators as well, right? So PowerShell also supports all these operators. So arithmetic, comparison, assignment equal is nothing but equal, not equal, etc. Logical operators like and, or, not. Okay. So those things, as long as you know these operators, you will be able to write your logic. Okay, that's the idea. I kept it here. And again, these are very easy to use. If you take arithmetic operators, again, these are the regular plus minus asterisk only. So I given some syntax here, $x plus $y, right? So even if you combine those words as a single word also, it works. But for better readability, you always give the spaces, okay, between plus and the variable. Let us say, let me comment this. Okay. So I'm just creating variable, let us say $x equal to 5. This is assignment operator, right? Okay. $y 10. Okay. This I basically create a variable, let us say $sum. Okay. Say this is a regular thing, but you need to get used to this. Plus $y, right? Now I can simply say there is a command to write it to the to the window as well. Okay, I can use $. So right host, I can simply say $sum. If I execute it, you can see 15. So similarly, if it is so if you remove this one, right, space, see, still it works. Okay, you can see the output, but this is not readable. So always follow the best practices. Give the spaces properly. Okay, so the reason I am showing here, in some of the scripting environments, right, let us say some XSLT, etc., the space is also important. If you don't give space, then it will treat it as a a word, not a operator. So but in PowerShell, it understands, because the moment it looks at the plus symbol, right, it knows that this is a arithmetic operation. Okay, similarly minus. Okay, so that's how you can use arithmetic operators. Okay, the next one is you can try this one, hardly takes a minute or so, right? Okay, so you have the comparison operators. Again, here you are not using less than, greater than, etc. You have to use these notations. Hyphen, if it is equal. So you remember, you have to take the, it will be two letters only. If it is a equal symbol, then you have to say first two letters of equal, EQ. So not equal to, these are two words, right? If it is a two words, then take the first letter of each word. Not equal to, take N, take A. That will become your not equal to operator. If it is a greater than, again you have two words. Take G from greater, T from than. That will become your operator here. So the comparison operator. That's how you can remember these operators. So it always with hyphen. Okay. These are the easiest ways again to remember. Okay. If I use the same thing here, instead of arithmetic operators, I simply say hyphen EQ. So it has the intelligence, so it will give you that one as well. So let's run this. So $x, I mean 5 equal to 10, not it's false, right? That's where the variable has got the false value, and that's what I'm displaying here. Similarly, if you want to see greater than or something, as I told you, use the first letter of each word. Greater than, okay? So first letter is uh, G, and the last letter is T. Very simple, as simple as that. Okay, it is false. If I say less than, L, T, first letter, true. So that's how you use comparison operators, and that's very easy to remember as well. Greater than, less than, G, T, L, T, greater than or equal to GE, less than or equal to LE. So first letters of each word. So you have the assignment operators. Anyways, you already seen this X, I mean the equal to, we are already doing, right? A variable equal to some value, etc. So these are equal to, say, plus equal to, minus equal to. I don't suggest to use this. This is confusing. This is nothing but this simplified version of. So what it does mean, $x equal to $x plus $y. You can basically simplify like this. We don't need to do that here. There is there is no other benefit of this one. You can simply write $x equal to $x plus $y. Similarly, minus equal to means $x equal to $x minus $y. So you don't need this one, but I'm still putting here because some people use these notations in their scripting. Probably you download the scripts from internet, right? Some people may use. That's the reason I kept it. But you can simply go and say $x equal to $x plus $y. So the next one is a logical operators. So it's about binaries, right? Logical means zeros or ones. Okay. It's very important. You need to understand here. So you have a and, or, not. These are the three logical operators that you are having. So now let's see. I'm saying $x hyphen and space $y. So what it writes, you see, now I'm writing this output, right? See what it is, true. $x and $y, it is giving the true. It is saying output is true. That means basically how it works. If your values are non-zeros, so $x is a non-zero, $y is a non-zero. If both are non-zeros, then the output of $x and $y will be true. If one of them is 0, then it will be false. You see, $y is a non-zero value, a zero value. You see, the output is false. Basically, you are comparing it binary level. Okay, not the actual value. It's all about zeros and non-zeros. So if it is, that is under, probably you heard it during the academics, right? Now we say R. So it will be hyphen R. So you already know it. R means at least one of them should be 0, then it will be non-zero, then it will be a true value. Let's say this is true. Output is true. If I make both of them as zeros, then it will be false. So at least one of the values should be non-zero for the logical OR to give a true value. So what is not? So let me make something. Okay. So if we have the not also, right? How you use a not? Dollar, sorry, hyphen. You should not use like this, hyphen, not, and then dollar X. Now write X. You can remove this. This is a negation basically. So dollar X is a non-zero value. So that means basically it is a true. But when I applied a not, right, it became false. So simply if I make it 0, right, then it will become true. You see the bottom, true. Actually, it is a negation. So you will use these logical operators, to compare in some values in some scenarios. I will talk about it actually. Okay, but you need to understand how you can use this and, or, and not. These are zeros and non-zeros. Okay. Okay. Now you've seen some basic commands, and the variable declaration, and the operators as well. Okay, and you also used some commands as well. Okay, but not, I mean, those are just a small commands. Okay, you have a hell number of commands to be used. Okay, these are a little bit complicated commandlets. Sorry, I also start using commands basically, but start using commandlets. So you have a complicated commandlets as well. So I just picked some of the commands where people frequently use it. Okay, let me put it in the presentation mode. Okay, it's not visible completely. Just give me a second. Okay, some of the useful commands that we use, right? So one is getting unique words from a list of words available. So you have a dollar list. I have a list of values like hello, hi, etc. So if you want to get the unique word from that list, you can basically apply sort command and unique command. You can see here I'm applying a dollar list, the first command actually. Dollar list, pipe symbol, sort, pipe symbol, get unique. Basically, if you want to apply more than one command on a specific item or data, then you have to use a pipe symbol. Okay. And similarly, you see get child items, because you might be looping through folders to do some permission setting or to delete something. Then you can use a get child items. Okay, and also you, you are not writing any script, but you want to go through a list of available data, loop through that data and apply some arithmetic operators or some logic. So that's where you can use pipe symbols and some for each object and dollar. So we'll execute this and I will show you so how it is useful in your real time. Okay, and you can split the words using dollar underscores dot split actually. Okay, and you have a command. You already seen this get process, and if you want to execute some exes, or you want to execute some softwares, I mean you want to run them, you can use invoke item command. Okay, you can open if it is a file, etc. Okay, and you can write some logic inside your single commandlet itself. Okay, let us say you are having a list of services running on your laptop or on the server, right? You want to loop through all the services and stop all the services which are related to SQL Server. Just an example. So that's where in those scenarios you can use this one, get service pipe symbol, and then where object is a commandlet. It will go through all the services which are, I mean, I just given stop. You can say star dot star SQL star. It will go through all the SQL services. If it matches SQL, then you can do something, or you can get that command. So you can do a lot many things like that. So I will execute some of these things for your reference. But these are the complicated what I'm showing along with general commandlets. Okay, I will share it with you guys as well after the session. Okay, so before getting into the loops, etc., right? Let's execute some of these things. So let us say these are very general requirements in your day-to-day scripting. That's the reason I particularly chosen these things. Okay, let me clear it. So you see, this is a variable, right? As I told you, variables in PowerShell are dynamic. You assign string, it will become a string variable. You assign integer, it will become integer. Now I assigned a set of values here, it will become a list array actually. Okay. So I given hello, hi, hello, morning, morning, etc. You want to get the unique words from here, then you basically apply dollar list first. You have to sort it. For that, you need to use a type symbol, use sort command, sorry, sort command, and then you want to get the unique, right? Sort it and then use get unique command. Let's say execute now. So basically I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You see now hello, hi, morning, super. One instance here is available. The intention I am using this command is to show how you can use multiple commands on a single line to work on a specific data. Okay. And let us say, let's look at this one. So we have a dollar underscore. This is one of the system variable. Okay, you can see if you go back, right? I listed here dollar. You can see this dollar underscore. What is this? Okay. Once you execute it, you will understand what is this dollar underscore. Okay. Let me come here. So in a simple way, so what I'm trying to do is I have an integer array. I want to refer to that integer array without mentioning dollar list here. Okay. So if I have to refer to this dollar list, I have to use a dollar list variable. But without using that, I can simply, without creating a variable, I can simply make this as a dollar, variable. Let me show you. I know it is confusing. If I tell you, then let me. I'm not directly writing a script because that's not the way to learn any scripting. So step by step. Okay. Now what this thing will do? This one. So I have a list of values here, and I'm applying some. I want to process this list of values. Okay. To process this, I need to look through this data, right? For the reason I'm using for each object. Okay. Process this data. What you want to do? You want to divide each value by 1000. Now you understand what is dollar underscore. Basically, dollar underscore will refer to the first set of values before this pipe symbol. So that's the use of dollar underscore. If you don't have a dollar underscore available, then how do you loop through this one? Then how it will, you have to look through, like this. First you say dollar list, and then you have to have this set of values, sorry, control V, and probably you need to keep them, like this, okay. And then you have to use some for loop or something. Okay, you have loops as well, and loop through each and every value in this one. So you have to write a more than number of lines of code, one line of code. So now it is simplified. You have the list of values. Basically, it is coming from some, let us say, some other, like as an input. You apply this command and you process that, and that operation is divided by 1000. Now, if you see this, Let me clear this one. 1, 2, 3. You see, because dollar underscore contains all this list of values. It is a very simplified version. So similarly, if you want to multiply, we say star. That's it. You can see this output. So this is a simplified version of your for loop. Okay. Similarly, you can open commands, etc. You can see this one. Let's say get service. This is another complicated, command that you use it in your scripting. Let us say what is. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm getting all the services and finding all the service which are having status as a status equal to stop. So that's what I want to discuss. How many services are stopped in my current server? So that's where you can use this. Again, you see, this is a command pipe symbol. Again, you are applying where each object, and now get service, you'll get a number of services, right? Let us say some 1,000 services. All those 1,000 services will go to dollar underscore system variable. So since you are applying where each object, so for each variable, as for each service in this dollar score, the status will check for stop. Then it will be displaying here. Similar thing, right? If you look at the above command, right? So I'm using actual variables, actual values here, but here I'm using a command. So the command will give me some output. That output will go to your dollar underscore. Here, actually, the values are going to dollar underscore. So that means either you can use the variable data can come here, or command data will come here, or actual values can come into dollar underscore. Okay. Now, if I execute this, see, these are all the services on my laptop that are under stopped mode. Okay. So that's how, use this complex commands, combination of more than one command and the dollar underscore system variable. So it's a combination, you see. You are using a logical operator, you are using system variable, and then you are using commandlets, and then command with the pipe symbol. Guys, I just wanted to stop here for today because it's a lot for you. You need to practice it as well. Okay. And tomorrow we'll get into the loops, conditions, etc. So once you are done with, you are ready for writing a script. Okay. That's where we will write some scripts, and then we'll integrate them with release pipelines as well. And also we will work with Azure Cloud as well with PowerShell. Okay, we'll see those things tomorrow. Any doubts?
Yeah, it's good.
Hope it is
Yes.
simplified now. It is not as complicated as we think learning any scripting language. So my intention is only to make it very simple. If that helps, I'm happy.
That's what I've simplified.
Okay. Okay then. So I will pause it for today. We'll continue this tomorrow. We will see
Purna.
various. Yeah.
Bro,
Yes, Suresh.
Can we discuss yesterday's whatever the issue I said?
Yeah. Now we can discuss. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Shall I make you
Can you-
presenter?
Yes.
Just a second. So you connected from your laptop.
Yes.
Okay. Then you are a presenter now.
Think.
Okay.
Are you?
Suresh, let me do one thing. Let me stop the recording because I just want to keep it separate. Okay.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you able to see my screen?